looking at an example of how to create your own framework. Obviously, it's not going to be as full-featured as if you used some other framework that already exists. And if you run into problems, you're going to have to figure out the answers yourself. So one of the reasons you would use a framework that already exists is because then you have people you can ask questions if you run into a problem. So this here is a simple framework. So on Home, I can click About on a nav bar, and it can switch back and forth between Home and About, as you can see here. So let's just look real quick at this framework. So here, this index page you would get set up, and you would set up the default controller and the default action, which would be Home Index. You could make this be anything that you need as the default. Then you would be checking to see in the query string, does is it equal to 0? Because if it is, you want to force that default again. I'm just double checking and making sure that it's being forced. If it doesn't equal 0, that means there is something in the query string. I still want to default it to index if there is no action. If there is an action, then we can do the action, and I don't even have it looking for URL variables here after the action if you're just going to the default index. But once you go here, it's looking at the URL data, getting that information, and passing it through. So this here is just an example, and I'll give the URL in the description so that you can go and look at this code yourself. Obviously, this is just an example, not something I would use in production. I would suggest if you want to play with it and build your own, you can kind of start building your own and looking at it. So if you go from here, you can go look at the controllers. Here's the base controller that you're building from. It's going to go get the layout and the layouts, and it's going to go get the views. You click here at Home. You can see here are the different controllers in the Home. If you needed to have an admin area, you could create an admin controller. If you needed a shopping area, you could create a shop controller. You could have a different controller for each one, and then you could pass through what you need it to do. Here it's getting the title for the About page. It's telling it what view you're going to render, and then I'm passing in main so that you could actually have it pass in data or get data in this controller. You could have it go to the model, which we don't even have that set up yet over here. We just have the basics. You would need either a components folder or a model folder, maybe both, because you might have some components that are not related to a model. And then when you go to views, you could see here in the views under Home, I have the About, and it's passing that About, and the Home, and it's passing that. This is if you were to put URL, and it's dumping everything that's coming through the URL. So if we go back here and we click here, you can see I have some URL variables coming through, and I'm dumping them out right here. So this is just a good example of something to look at to help you to learn about how these frameworks work. Now, obviously, there's more to a real framework. So main is when we go back and look at the controller and we look here at Home, we see the word main. Main is the actual controller. So you look here, this is the view that we're going to go get. This is the title, and this is main. We could pass more stuff here in the title so that we could have other things, other data that we pass through. And main is telling us we're trying to use the main layout. So when we come here to layouts and we look at main, in main, we're going to use this custom tag CF header with a page title being passed in, and then all of the content, because I'm using Bootstrap, is going to be inside of a container fluid. Now, if I get rid of this and I say, okay, for my main, I just want it to be I don't want it to be fluid. I want it to kind of shrink. And so let's just hit refresh, go back to home. So you see home is over here now. All of your data would be shrunk in here. If you need the nav bar and all of that to be shrunk too, well, then you would have to make changes to that in here right at the moment. But this is just an example of something you can go through. It's not got a lot of code, so it should be easy to dig through and look at. So here's this custom tag where it's putting in the header, and it's going and getting the header and the footer, and it's also running the custom tag in the CF nav bar so that you're getting all of that information. So hopefully this can help you understand how frameworks work and what you should be using them for. So I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions or if you have any more things you would like me to build, I'm going to keep trying to build other ColdFusion and PHP. I've got other things in the works as well that I'm thinking about. So hopefully you have a good day. Keep coding.